Greetings, dear friends. In this session, we continue working on the website. We will be developing a block for the footer. So let's move on to our code. I remind you that we always merge the previous branches and create a new branch for each new block. We end up with this kind of structure, you see, that is, work on each individual block is carried out in a separate branch, and it is merged with the main branch. Therefore, I hope you also adhere to this system. I am currently on the main branch. I will create a new branch. Name it block footer. And I will continue working in this branch. I need the starting point. I will take the header block as a template since it has everything I need. So what do I need? I need a wrapper like a container for the footer block. And I will make this central part using inner blocks, meaning I will use other blocks within this block. And in the header, we have everything we need. And carefully. Rename everything we need. Let's start with the directory. Footer block. Next, in the images, what kind of image do we have here? It's a background image. We don't need it, so let's go ahead and delete it from here. Edit the JSON block. Footer block. Footer version 10. So, regarding attributes, what attributes will be present here? The upper part doesn't have attributes since it will be the inner content part, but the lower part does. Here we have the page and attributes, so for copyrights we will have a simple string value attribute. For these images there will be separate attributes, and for these links we won't use navigation here. Just a simple repeater to add links. So we can use a simple array, meaning copyrights for a simple string value. Next we will have logos, which will be of type array. By default, an empty array. We set it up. And links. And don't forget the comma here. So for the guys, everything is sufficient. Further with the scripts, no additional scripts are required for the footer. There is an accordion here, but since it's a separate block, it will load its own view script. Therefore, I can remove this script from here in the view and also delete it from the root. Let's clear the CSS. Since we don't need it here, with also clearing it for the front, changing its org selector. And next up is DS. So for DGS, the inner block needs inspector controls, a panel body is needed, text is needed, control is needed. Let's first load the fields of the block itself, this lower part. So a text control is needed for the copyright field. It's better to copy it to avoid typos. Copyright. And from here we load copyright, load logos, and load links. Our section will be called outer. Settings. Price. For the field, in principle, you can use a text area control. For this field, you can use a text control as you prefer. But if we make a text area control, then don't forget to load it. And here, next, more. We don't need any of these simple fields here. We need a repeater. We made such a repeater in the call to action block. Let's go to this call to action block in edit and simply copy this link repeater. Let's return to our code. Insert this component. So by default, an empty array. This link repeater block also uses the key links. Therefore, we don't change much in it and simply call it, and it will request a link from us. And once again, what we need, the only question is where to load it, into a separate body panel or right here. Let's do it as follows. We will add B and try to call the HR component, since WordPress also has a separator component. Yes, we will need it. This set links the call. Next, we need to do the same for the logos. Therefore, we will create a similar component. Copy the current component. You can edit it manually or ask ChatGPT, whichever is more comfortable for you. Logos. Repeater. So this component will only accept one field, which will store the logo. In principle, you can also make a link that is both a logo and a link, which makes sense, right? When you click on the logo, the payment system will open, but if the person hasn't inserted a link, then there won't be any links. We can improve it. Let's probably do it this way: URL and image. So we leave not the field for the URL, but for the anchor, we remove it and replace it with file upload, file upload. We can use the component media place Paul. Yes. We return here, call it and I want to add to it so that it only accepts image types. Next, the button. And here, by the way, we also changed the ethics club, so we have everywhere is full. Gives the blog on. So we created all the components. Go down and call this component as well. Looks good. Let's try. To register this block and enable the compiler, we go to the PHP file, register our block. And enable the compiler. We first enter the directory. And run the command. The compiler has started, our block is ready. Then we move to the editor. We remember that our footer is in the pattern, so we can go directly there. In our footer, the block is loaded. It is currently default because it is used there. You see, the footer is assembled from pieces. We need our newly created block, so we add it from here. So this block has an error. Let's see exactly what the problem is. Log repeater from node define. So here we use logos. We call it most likely as a log. You see, let's fix this issue. Like this. Now it will be called log repeater. Update. Add once again. So this time already as link is not defined. And this is probably where we started. The card limbo, we didn't clear the body. Let's do that. Let's clear it. Variables are being called there. And since they don't exist, we essentially leave only inner blocks and the board for now. Replace one with feet. And update once more. Button was not loaded. This happens when we copy paste from other files and forget to load the components. And finally, with which one attempt, our block appeared, and we have a field. There is a field for copyrights. To add links, you need to add CSS and a field for adding logos, which is not stable. Let's check why it's still like this. We haven't fixed everything. We haven't changed everything. Let's go back to the component. Have the blog repeater, and here we create a log object, but we refer to the link object. Link URL, and update once more. Let's do it while it updates. I will add and style. I'm not interested in this class. And I'm really interested in this class. Let's add a block. Currently, the styles won't display because I haven't refreshed the cache. Well, let's check. First, adding works, deleting works, adding works, and deleting works. So, everything works perfectly here. This separator looks quite nice. And we can definitely use HTML tags like line breaks and HR. But in WordPress, there is also a separator component called divider. It's also in our components. Let's try to load it. and it's still experimental. To load it, you need to refer to it using this key. And in the main body, where we need to call it, we refer to it in the following way. Like this divider, and we can set its margin. And if I want to set the same margin both above and below, I just set the margin. I set it somewhere, I don't know, 8 pixels. So I set it to 8 and close the component. And here too, Barry. And I remove HR, replacing it with divider. Let's check it now. So let's save the page so we don't have to add the footer block again, and refresh it. We have Jess in our safe. Up to this point, everything related to the header, and that's why it fails. So I will also remove this code from safe.js because of this when saving. It sees it as HTML. So let's edit it a little and save. JS. Refresh it once more. And delete the block. Add it again with a new body already. Select this one, delete them. Let's try refreshing with cache clearing. Here the cache is disabled for us. Strangely, sometimes there are things like the block seems to be there, but now it has disappeared. The error indicates that the footer block is not registered, and it indeed cannot find it. In such cases, I try restarting the compiler. Look, here's the problem. I didn't even notice. Copilot inserted this line for me, but I don't need it here because I'm loading this experimental one. Just when I load it, I need to specify an alias here. That's what I forgot. This is how it should be specified. And then it will understand this was most likely our problem. And the technical JS code was generated, but it had an error. So the block wasn't registered. It didn't display. Now, yes, now the block is there, but it says not that the block doesn't exist, but that the content is different. Therefore, we can perform recovery and fill it with the necessary content beforehand. This is important here. Firstly, I didn't pay attention to where the line came from. Apparently, I inserted it without noticing. But when we use experimental, we must specify the alias. Exactly the key that we use as a component. And regarding the content, we'll check if Eastern is preserved. So for the logos, we select these logos and export them. Export as SVG. And here we will add them. And by the way, it would probably be worth showing the display as well. Let's look at the logo. It looks like it should automatically change color. We set it up like the information, but now we will check how accurate it is. Edit the component and display it. So, the blog by key and match, if there is something there, then we will display this logo. Tags MG. In this way, and when we upload something, we will see it. Otherwise, we don't see anything. We save the page, reload it. We select our footer block. The copyrights weren't saved. Indeed, this was actually saved. This was saved. The logo is displayed. Let's check why the copyrights weren't saved. Well, yes, because we don't save its value, so here we extract from the copyright. So here, from the old copy-paste, the old variable remains. And we adjust it. Once we refresh the page, I select the footer. I'll upload remaining logos. So in principle, we've added the data. Now, for the upper part, we will have a column component. For the columns, we will have two identical middles. In this middle, we will call the FAQ section. We add its data. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at the FAQ. Our title is slightly different. Therefore, most likely, we'll need to add some fix for the footer. We'll set margin to 0. And the title is empty. There is an area for the title here because I specifically left it so that you can click and write this title. We save. And on the left side, so we have a logo. We call the site logo component. And load this logo, exporting it beforehand. I hope this is a local value and it won't edit the global logo for me. I don't remember this moment. Let's check. We will save. Let's delete the old footer before saving. We don't need it anymore. We'll keep only our new one. Let's save. And check on the site if the site logo and our main one change. Yes, it changes, which is not good. Let's check the component to see if it has any settings. To disable this value? No, I don't see anything like that. So I'll reset it and just delete it. Because this component no longer suits me here, I will use a simple image and upload it as a simple image. Its size is 61 pixels. Then, after it comes a paragraph. In this paragraph, there's a piece of text like this. Icons. We'll add it, save it later. Then work on the body. So, in our body, in the inner footer, besides the internal blocks, there's a kind of separator. After this separator, there will be the lower section. In it, we will have a left part and a right part. We do it with a check. That is, if there's no copyright, we won't show it like this. Further, the same goes for the logos. And we go through the logos in a loop. We will have a link. And it will contain the EMG tag. We refer to the logo object by the URL key, and the image is under the EMG key. And besides the left part, there will also be a right part. So in the right part, we already have links. This is internal to us, so we remove this attribute. We remove this as well. The anchor itself is located under the anchor key. We will carefully and gently take this body and also place it in the frontal part. Our variables are loading. We can try to check. We update the page in the admin panel. So we made a mistake. In Safe.js, we refer to the content key. Restore the block, save it. Here is all our data. It just needs to be styled. So regarding the data, we transferred all the data except for the icons for the icons. We will return to this later because these icons are also used on other pages. When we have either components or styles, we will come back and add them here. Let's look at Aki the site. Here it is in the block. I was worried about these styles, but uppercase. The text itself was set, so they are in uppercase here. And here it is exactly as it should be, as in the layout. We will also update the logo because it was removed from the header. Let's edit the logo first. Let's go to the header. I think it was a 31. No, 196, that's correct. Okay, restored. Here. Here we will start with the styles. Starting with the block, we can also attach rapier. Here and here. Tick style. For the separator, we set following style and then this block itself will have display flex, direction, column, and get 48, 24. It will be 24px. Footer line, and as far as I can see here, 48. So we will have to add another 24, which means 24 pixels. Next, the next element is the bottom element. On the left side, we have gap 48. In this left part, we have logos, and these logos, I think, don't have a container. Yes, no container. Let's add it. Eight pixels. We need to restore the block so that all the HTML I changed is applied. Let's also put in edit. Let's add it. So the compiler works, HTML has changed. Why don't you suggest recovery to me? Apparently, because both in the admin panel and on the front end, there is no conflict and therefore no recovery. Let's check. No, our container is not there. Then let's refresh the page with cache clearing. Well, now recovery has appeared. Yes, when working with Gutenberg, you often have to clear the cache, refresh with cache clearing. Otherwise, as you can see, it seems like the page was refreshed, but the changes didn't load. Now, the wrapper has loaded. The container has loaded here. They have their own separate gap. And the margin is missing. Margin, we have the same as all the blocks, both at the top and bottom. Therefore, we'll take it. From another block, next, probably the same for links, although for links, we don't need it as we don't have other elements. So directly on the A rightward, we'll attach these styles. Active slap ends, open paradise. And divide, or sarab. From 1, probably we'll write these styles. Let's look at these containers, like this. Açayım. Yes, everything is fine with the styles. Good. This section should be slightly limited. Those 400 pixels. To limit this area. First of all, it has different styles. I can proceed as follows. I remind you that these are the data I add through the inner block. We select a specific block, insert it. Open the Advanced tab and add some custom class. I add footer, copyright. And copy this class here, save it. And to this class, I will need to add the appropriate styles. Maximum width, 400 pixels. Like this. And for my copyright here too, different styles are used. We copy. The copyright is located in this left part. So directly on the left part, We set these styles: color, size, thickness. That's all. Now we refresh the page, and all the styles we wrote will be applied. Looks good. Let's switch to the dark version. So, in the dark version, the logos suffer. In this case, we'll probably have to do the same trick as we did here. That is, for the dark version, there will be different logos. Otherwise, everything is great in the dark version. Let's check with the layout to make sure everything really looks like this. Yes, it seems to be the same. Let's save the logos for the dark version. Also export them to SVG. Returning to the admin panel, let's also refresh by clearing the cache. Basically, we currently have only the photo open, and here you can see there is a border. But there is no margin. Well, now the margins have loaded, which I added at the top and bottom. It's quite clear that this is the footer. So our task is to add here another media placeholder for the dark version. So let's go to edit.js. Go to the component logo repeater. And here we will have another link, image duck. Next, we add the component there. First of all, a transfer there, lines. And match dark. And match duck. Here. So where we load the logo, we also load the dark version. Let's add a class to it. We apply the same changes to the front. Updating. Confirming recovery. Now, we select for the dark version of the logo as well. Saving. We just need to add styles. Where we have the logo, for images with a class blog impact, let's add display on, but we will add an exception when we have dark mode. That is when this class is present on the blog. we disable the light logos. Updating the page. Here they are. The logos we are already familiar with. In the light version, the dark logos are displayed in the admin panel, and if I update, the styles are also applied well. We have the dark versions here. We cannot switch to the next step, which needs to be done. Remember, this is a pattern if I will be testing and uploading code further to the test server or live production. I will have to recreate everything I did here manually. Again, dragging and filling with content. To avoid doing this, we need to update the pattern, so we switch to the subedit and take care of it. In this way, of course, these links from the local machine will not be visible. But at least we will have the structure, and thanks to this structure we will save a lot of time. We won't have to recreate this block again on the real site. We move to the folder with the template. This is our theme directory, the game store directory, and there we have the parts folder. Here's footer.html, and we replace it. We replace the code and what was previously loaded. We can completely remove from here. Notice how interestingly it's implemented in HTML. We cannot write PHP code, but we can use such a construction and move the code to a separate PHP file. There we write PHP code and simply call this file within the footer as it has been implemented so far. But we don't need this at this stage, so I delete this file. Switching back to the visual editor. And with that, in principle, the work is done. We implemented the block. On the main page, we'll remove block. On the main page, we'll remove the temporary block. This game store, we don't need it here. We'll save the page. Go to the main page and take a look. Margins. It seems there are too many of them. And yes, there are indeed too many, because our footer block is added to a more global container. Footer, you see, and for this reason, there is a margin here. It is framed by a global block, and we have a margin, and it is also framed by a global block. Therefore, they don't cancel each other out, and the height here is very large. For this reason, we remove the top margin on the footer. It will be on other blocks, since we use them for all blocks. Therefore, it will not overlap the block in any case. But to fix this problem, we remove it. All done. Now is wonderful. And our main page is complete. The block is finished. We can send it to the repository. Let's open the repository and merge it with the main branch. And at this stage, our main page is officially complete. All changes are in the main branch. We can start testing, send it to the test server and the production server, so that the data is filled on the site as well, and the site looks like a site. You can skip this and proceed to the next blocks, but at this stage, we conclude the current lesson. See you in the next lesson.